And so this symposium was also, I guess, a pilot for how we can reach the community and serve the community, and how can an art gallery become something very useful to locals. And we had a really diverse audience, and yet everyone felt welcome, and so that was a real success in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. I'll echo that.
Thanks, I'll pay you later.
Yeah, there was a wide range of people attending, and both in the audience and on the platform in terms of age as well as origin. And I think that actually is quite a new element, where there is as much respect given to younger contributors as to the ones that you kind of expect. I mean, the age range was large of those that was there. People that I know were there that are in their 80s to, well, it's very small children. So.
Yeah, I mean, well, judging from our evaluations, we had quite a few 16-year-olds there, and then
will it willingly come by themselves? Because this is, I've seen at places where there is an aim to involve young people. When it's an open symposium, like a day like that, they may come. Well, at 16, they may, if they have a good relationship with parents, come with a parent. But something like that, to feel welcome, that you can come by yourself. There's often that gap of, like, the younger children are brought, then from sort of mid-20s people bring themselves, but that middle range sometimes don't go to those kind of things. So how did you achieve that outreach?
I think it was through going down lots of different avenues, so lots of different ways of promoting in local papers, but also the connections that the education department already has with schools. And a lot of the 16-year-olds we came into contact with through them doing an arts award, and so we encouraged them to come, because we wanted a range of people there, because the whole point was to explore the variety of narratives, the variety of perspectives. And so through, letting people know that they're welcome, you've got to let 16-year-olds know that they can come, because they might not feel confident in that scenario. And so the age range was 16 to 80. It was great.
I thought that video that you showed of the project, that was fantastic as well.
Yeah.
What was this?
This was a video that the other education coordinator, Beth Atkinson, at the gallery made with the youth centre at Coramsfield, and she's been working with them closely for a couple of years now, I think. And so she created a film with them where she was talking to the young women that are part of the women's group there, and asking them questions.
What sort of questions?
Asking them what it's like to be a woman in London, asking them about how they feel, about how they're represented, about their hopes for the future. And so then they edited it all together, and we had that projected at the event. And it was interesting, and there was a mixture of serious issues and humour there. It was nice to have their presence in the gallery, seeing as we have a good relationship with Coramsfield.
What was the age group of the children or young people that you were working with through the Whitechapel?
They were year 10, so 14, 15-year-olds.
They were BTEC Art and Design students, which meant that they did 6 hours a week of art, so they were very committed.
Lucky them as well, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they were a fantastic group.
So, I mean, what were these questions that you were raising there, or what was...
It's really funny, actually, because we did one session about kind of knowledge making in art institutions, and we showed a Guerrilla Girls artwork, which was saying something like the percentage of female artists in some American art institution is 2%, and the percentage of nude females in the artwork is 98% or something like that. And so I wanted to make the students aware of this kind of discrepancy of representation. And they responded in a way that we didn't expect. Well, in the way that I didn't expect, which was to be quite like, oh yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of like, yeah, they could kind of see it. And, and it was obvious to them.
Did it bother them?
Yeah, it bothered them. And we didn't really... we kind of felt like afterwards, we discussed it quite a lot, and we felt like we kind of hadn't given it enough opportunity to kind of discuss it in a wider sense there. So I think it's something that definitely Phoebe, who's not here yet, but it's definitely something that she's really interested in discussing more when she's with groups. And she's actually doing a specialist project to kind of talk about those things now.
It's nearly really 7, cool. And I know Phoebe's aiming to reach around this kind of time. So we've kind of opened a nice door for Phoebe to walk into the discussion. Little does she know. She is very forthright, I know that.
Yeah. I mean, we were really happy to come and speak at October Gallery because it was a real opportunity for us to, definitely speaking personally, to kind of think about what feminism meant to me, or what representation of women meant to me as a woman.
Yeah, and it also feels like it's a discussion that I seem to be having a lot more of. Are there things that happen in art that are based on gender? Are there discrimination? Is there discrimination? Is there are there assumptions made about being a female artist as opposed to being a male artist? And so the invitation from Ella came at a time when these conversations have been happening a lot more and more. And I don't know whether that's just a coincidence, that's something that's just happening around me, or whether that's something that's happening maybe in our generation.
There is a kind of, I do think a kind of zeitgeist or bubble does seem to happen. You can feel, I think each of us is original. Yeah. And everyone's unique, and you bring something forward, but then somehow it seems to be there and be clothed. I think there's lots of scope, and I think those questions, the way you ask the questions, are ones that are, you're now.
Yeah.
However, that in a way, there's got to be a kind of resonance somewhere, I feel, for people to respond. Otherwise, you're way ahead of your time, and your input's kind of wasted, because I think it's a good time to be doing this, and I think it's because also, I don't know, because to still be saying International Women's Month or Women's History Month, that it's there, it's obviously, there's something in the air, isn't there?
And Women's Hour on Radio 4, that suggests that every other hour is Man's Hour.
There's a new group called Sound Women who have been exploring the representation of women in radio, the ratio of women presenters, women producers, women in the ideas scenario, and it doesn't look good. Still doesn't look good.
Yeah. Well, I think that question, you immediately see what's going on when you ask whether
except
we should
for
have...
resonance, of course.
Yeah, except for when you kind of think of the idea of having a Man's History Month, a Men's History Month, and how ridiculous that feels.
Yeah.
For me, that kind of throws it into sharp contrast.
Yes, men's hour.
Yeah.
Men's History Month.
Men's history.
Yes. Yeah, it's I think I'm going to hold this next question actually for when hopefully Phoebe comes, because I was going to, I'll hold that, what I was going to say. Back to, you were saying like those questions about the representation as women, art, women's art, men's art. I mean, what evidence were you looking at?
I guess looking at just coming from personal experience, and my own kind of feeling that most of my artistic influences are male, and that's kind of an accident. I don't think it's necessarily a reflection of my own interests. I think that's a reflection of what's available for me to draw on. And
definitely, if you walk into any art gallery, I think you referenced Tate Modern as well. If you walk into any room, it's going to be like 100% men. I don't know, like 80 if you're lucky. But
yeah, so there is this feeling of these influences that I look up to and that I respect, and I'm sort of influenced by the ideas, and so somewhere along the lines, those doing art and those kind of ideas feel associated in my mind with men, with male artists, and with a kind of male idea of what an artist is.
Well, in that way you can't really achieve it, can you? Because you're a female artist, so it's that idea that you guys were talking about can I make my art better by being more masculine or more male? If they're your role models or the people that have influenced your work.
Well, exactly. It's directly in contrast with my own experience of me and wanting to create, and where does that come from? And it makes me think that maybe there is. Obviously there are female artists, and there are plenty to draw from. So it's not that that's not there, but there it does feel as though there is something about me and my position, and perhaps my age. I don't know. That
what age range would you put yourself in?
I'm 28. No, 29.
Yeah. When you were studying, was this very much the platform that was given to you, that it was very much more of a male space?
Interestingly, I switched halfway through my degree from fine art to sound art. So I went from a degree at St Martin's to, which I guess was slightly more predominantly female, to a course that I was one of 3 females on and the rest out of I think 23 students doing sound art at LCC. So I actually jumped right into that.
Right into the frame. I mean, it's something that we've explored with Women in Music, of which I've been a board member for some time, and it's its 25th anniversary. Still, when we look at the proms, the level of women that are, given composer pieces, conductor pieces.
Yeah.
You look at who's won the Mercury Prize. There's a really tiny percentage of women compared to male artists. Still there, still that same imbalance. Because I was, my daughter's your age, so in the 70s we were exploring some of these issues, and I in a way I was quite surprised to see this question asked, and some of the not surprised. I was thinking exactly your point. Do we need it now? Why is it still a question? And I thought, well, what has changed? I think certain things have changed, but still, that the question is still necessary, and it still needs to be asked. Shows that not a lot has changed. However, it's different people asking it, because in the 70s I was in my teens and early 20s, and then you go through changes and times, and we were also told that we are in a post-feminist situation. Please, it's still very necessary. And with the symposium asking this question, it's actually offering the opportunity to a new wave of people to ask that question. I mean, was all of you are in your 20s, yes?
Yeah.
You too. Yes. So I'm interested in the climate that makes you ask that question now again.
Well, for me, it's interesting working in education, and I did a literature degree, and then started painting and trying to create my own artwork, and then ended up in this education role. Now, in education, it's predominantly women who are working in that environment, and so you see in these different sort of occupational situations the gender bias, and it's interesting. And actually, if you take a predominantly female organisation and you have a few men in there, then it seems to make things work better. And the same in a predominantly male company or institution. So I think that mixture of male and female creates a more cohesive working environment, and I was kind of interested in that. But what I was also really interested in was hearing what the young women from Coramsfield thought, these sort of, I think they're 18-year-olds, and I wondered whether, I kind of thought that they might say, oh, everything's equal. But they are saying the same things that we were thinking or are thinking now, and that people have, you know, 30 years ago.
Because, I mean, according to the theorists, we've got, like, Angela McRobbie and Judith Butler talking about this idea that our generation's been sold back feminism, like, well, these kind of ideas of choice and empowerment have been sold back to us through media and popular culture, like women's magazines. So actually capitalism's just taken on these feminist ideals and it's just provided us with things that we can buy to try and fulfil that, like looking through the pages, etc. So it's really, you know, great then that people, that, you know, young women are kind of still seeing through the things that they're being sold, and they can still see that there is inequality. Because, I mean, that was always a thing when, definitely speaking from personal experience, when I was younger, I felt like, yeah, I'm equal, like men and women are equal. And of course in Britain, compared to the rest of the world, definitely a lot more, or lots of other countries in the world, but we're definitely not there yet. And it's really great that we can at least see that, so we can try and change it.
I guess the thing that interests me is, like, in contrast to the 70s, is there, if we do have more access to opportunities, then is there something perhaps about it being to do with women and us taking charge or creating those opportunities rather than asking to be involved or to join in? And I think that's a question that I'm interested in thinking about, is to what degree is it our responsibility or opportunity that is different from in the past, say.
Yeah, so we have to make that, I remember you were saying on the panel, we have to maybe redefine what success means, or like the gendered notion of success. Because I mean, when we're talking about like me trying to make my work better, like by making it more masculine, but I was talking to my flatmate Matt about it, and he was saying that he's tried to make his work more feminine to make it become more successful. So it seems like we're both trying to reach this middle ground, and like actually by changing what that is, maybe make it more feminine, or I don't know.
Or genderless.
Or genderless, yes. Yeah, the utopia that we were talking about. In the
what would making something more masculine entail or mean? What would it look like that somebody, you know, that would have that difference that you may seek?
So I think I'm using it in quite a traditional way. So it would be rational.
Male, rational and masculine. Now, does this go together? This is the 70s speaking.
Yeah. Almost like strong aesthetics. So I guess it would just look like a lot of male art, and it wouldn't make people grimace. People wouldn't be like, oh no, if you start talking about feelings or autobiography or emotions, that kind of thing.
And take that further, because
maybe it's something to do with the legacy of conceptual art and ideas, and the emphasis on art being about ideas and not about feeling or personal expression or things that are maybe more timeless or universal. And I don't know whether that is a more male masculine thing, but it feels that somewhere in that, this embarrassment over being female or being finding strength in feeling seems to be part of the equation.
It's this idea of subjectivity versus objectivity. It seems like when you were talking about that, about you know, being able to be the other or whatever, or occupying some kind of sense of a subjective view on things, which conceptual art, when you just started talking about that, and I started seeing white canvases with like Onkawara, like black written dates on it and that kind of thing, and they're totally objective and totally male and totally rational and scientific looking, as opposed to kind of very emotive big things. But now I'm thinking about Jackson Pollock when I was saying emotive, and I was doing like that with my hands, because of course he's a classic masculine artist genius, isn't he?
What about the artists that come to the October Gallery?
October Gallery represents a lot of non-Western art, so it gives a platform to new artists. Well, not new artists, but artists that maybe local people in Holborn or London wouldn't necessarily see. So we have Layla Shower, we have a lot of West African artists and stuff that's influenced by sort of woven things and reusing materials, as well as we recently had an American artist, Gandalf Gavan, and that was a lot of neon strip lights and mirrors on walls, and that was sort of very conceptual. And then you'll have an exhibition like that, and then you might have Owusu Ankoma, who does these paintings using Adinka symbols from Ghana. So there's a lot of variety, and I've only been there 5 months, so I'm still getting to know the artist as well. But it's great because there is this variety, so once they've rehung a show and you come down and the space is completely transformed. And so I think they sort of... Our next exhibition is Robert Beer and some Tibetan artists, and so we're at the education department, we're going to be exploring this idea of creating narrative. I think we're going to do some kind of puppet making and lots of intricate brushwork detail. So it's, in a way, it's quite a great opportunity to see this exhibition, learn about these new artists, and then be like, now you've got to come up with something that you can do with kids from age 0 to adult, and how are you going to do that? And with the Layla Shower show, which is about the psychology of female suicide bombers, that was a massive challenge. It was great.
Really strong, yeah. And when just looking at like male and female artists coming through the gallery, I was thinking like you were talking about weaving and reusing or found objects, because there's Ella Natsui and then there's Nena Okori, who both use found objects and
create these kind of tapestries,
and they have, there's a similarity and then a difference. I don't know if they could be defined as male or female art forms, or what they're doing.
I guess I'd have to know more. Maybe it's to do with the process as well, because and the scale. I know that Ella Natsui's work are vast. I think he's going to have a hang outside the Royal Academy in May.
Wow.
And like a sort of massive structure in the front. But I haven't seen Nena's work live yet, so...
You're in for a treat.
Yeah.
You're in for a treat, yeah. Doesn't look like Phoebe's going to
she
reach.
will. Honestly, she
You think
will.
she will? Because the thing I wanted, that when I talked to her before, was very much the right of the next generation to be part of this debate and to be exposed to this debate. And I'm just going to... We've got about 15 minutes left of the programme. I had planned initially to punctuate this with some sounds, but the disc I burnt refused to play, so never mind. I did tantalise our listeners. You're listening to Resonance 104.4 FM London-wide and all the ws.resonancefm.com worldwide, to a programme that's called Every Picture Tells a Story, Women in Politics, now looking at the representation of women in art, through art, and issues of gender in art and responses to that. And that was just my recap. This is DJ Debbie with Ella from the October Gallery, Louisa and Chloe from DARTER, and hopefully the third element, Phoebe, before we close. But at the start of the show, I was hoping to make a dramatic entrance, as they did at the symposium, with these young performers called Yuya.
Yeah, the you-ya.
The you-ya. The you-ya.
yeah.
The is quite critical very
the
often.
you-ya.
Yes, the you-ya. So tell us about them, Ella.
Well, I am a new fan. Connie, the lead singer, I have known her for a few years, and I listened to their album recently, and it's amazing. It's a guy, Ellie, on guitar, and he's strumming and playing the drums on it, and Connie's voice is just this deep, powerful voice, and they're really playful, great performers, do nice little bit of talking in between songs and really connect with the audience. And I would recommend that listeners Google them. The
YUYA.
Exactly. amazing group.
And they've got kind of EP out around it with tracks called It's Better, Kill Lucy and Naked, which are, there was two of them. The October Gallery is a space where there's a main gallery and then there's an L shape beyond and a courtyard. And without that much amplification, even the courtyard, the people that were having their shifty cigarettes were, they were also grooving because it was a powerful sound coming from them.
Yeah, they're amazing, and yeah, they have an album out. Buy it, guys.
And that was a nice touch. Again, a different way of presenting the symposium, lest we all got too sat in our seats, and not that there was any danger of the discussion solidifying or becoming dull at any point. It was totally engaging all the way through. But then to break the atmosphere and give people a chance to chill, mingle, express their thoughts at the end, the UER was the perfect choice.
Well, yeah, people were really talking with each other, which was great. People talking to people they didn't know and talking about the ideas. And since the symposium, people I've known who have attended have been talking about how much it's triggered thoughts, and they've kept thinking about what was said. And I wanted to mention something about Phoebe's performative element, but I don't know whether we should
just
wait for her.
Say because
because
the moment is it's your chance now. She may or may not come, so because she's working on a project which may have overrun. So
well, Phoebe's contribution to the talk was a series of questions that she had projected on the wall, and you had to stand up if the question or statement related to you. And what kind of things did they have up?
Like, stand up if you see a glass ceiling?
Yeah, stand up if you're a feminist.
Stand up if you use your assets.
To get things done, I think.
Yeah. And it was great because it got people moving, and it was kind of funny as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But something that a friend of mine had said afterwards that was really interesting was that when you saw this question written on the wall, you had to not only think about whether you wanted to stand up and agree with it, but you had to think about the definitions of those words, and were you interpreting that statement in the way it was meant to be interpreted, in the way that everyone else was, and how were people judging you and how were you judging them? So it was quite interesting.
Nowhere to hide in the room when you stand up, yes.
But also thinking about how people communicate and how you can have the same conversation with someone, but your interpretation of how you're communicating is different because of the weight you place on certain words. Like we were saying, assets could be boobs or could be intellect. So it depends on...
Or the missing piece of clay.
So, yeah, I thought that was a really interesting element. And it would be a shame not to mention it, just because Phoebe's not here.
Really
I think one of Phoebe's main concerns also is the word feminist and the word and feminism, and how accessible that is and how widely known about that is amongst young people. Phoebe does a lot of work with young people, so she day to day comes across different kind of ideas of what it means to be female, and the kind of peer pressure that happens, but also the pressure from magazines and from the way that women are represented and the impact that has.
Yeah. And it's just nice that it's not become... Oh, I don't know. I guess because one of the things was stand up if you think you're a feminist.
Yeah.
And only 4 people stood up or something, wasn't it?
Really?
So that was really interesting, yeah, and a room full of people who were willing to spend one of the hottest days of the year.
And she talked about this idea that we have of feminists as, I don't know if I want to be called
associated.
a feminist.
Yeah, definitely.
And it somehow has picked up negative connotations, despite it being a word that could encompass a lot of different views within it. So.
Well, I think the young people that we spoke to, when they were asked, would you consider yourself a feminist? And they were like, no. And then the follow-up question was, well, do you believe in equality between the sexes? Oh, yeah, of course, of course. So it's almost like it's become a dirty word.
Definitely.
And I don't know whether we need to redefine it, or maybe there's a new word, a modern word, a contemporary word that we could use that would mean, I don't know,
there is a lot happening online as well. People are reclaiming that word. And
This could be a kind of forum that could take forward. Is there an interactive space on the October Gallery website? Or
Well, funny you should mention the website, because we're in the process of creating an education website that we can upload more regularly, and so there'll be a link from the main October Gallery website to a purely education space where we'll be able to have more interactive stuff happening and have it really directed to these kind of conversations.
This could be a perfect starter point for it to pick this up. We're coming close to the end, so we've mentioned that website word. So how do people find you? What are your websites?
Well,
October Gallery is www.octobergallery.co.uk.
DARTER.
DARTER is www.darter.co.
Just .co.
Just .co.
Interesting. The internet got so much on it. Resonance is all the w's.resonancefm.com. I have a Mixcloud, which is mixcloud.com/outerglobe, which is where I'll be putting this. I'll put this show up there, and hopefully you can put links through, or you could also possibly, if you like it enough, when you hear it back, put it on your websites.
Yeah, for sure.
As well. The overarching question at the start was, one, why do we still need Women's History Month that somehow has miraculously appeared? Why Women's History Month? Do we still need it? It seems we do. Hands up. If you think we still need Women's History Month, put your hand up.
I'll just say that at the end of the symposium day, it felt like we'd only just scratched the surface, and I think a day isn't long enough, a month isn't long enough.
An hour here and now isn't. And the other question was the one whether a response to that is possibly defined by age, gender. Experience is another thing. Whether age or gender has a bearing on these questions. We have 3 minutes, so we ain't going to answer this one now. However, did you feel that the symposium achieved the ends? And I'm doing the unforgivable and asking you a double question. Would you do it again?
Oh, yeah.
Yes to what?
I would definitely do it again, but I need a little rest because it was quite a lot to organise. I also think that even though we might not have necessarily answered key questions, it was a real excellent platform for discussion, and we're here and we're still talking about it. So I guess it's been useful in that way. But I would say that it's not dependent on gender or age. It seems that there's a variety of perspectives, no matter what walk of life or category you fit into. And that's what I've learnt from the symposium. That's become very clear, I think.
A nutshell from you, what you got from it?
Yeah, I think I'd echo that, really, that the inequality is not just a gender issue, and it being a gender issue is also kind of completely interwoven into other areas.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've got a single equality bill now, so maybe that's been reflected in policy.
Maybe. I remain a Yeah, I mean, and the exhibition, The Other Side of Paradise, is on at the October Gallery, which is on Old Gloucester Street off Kingsway.
Yeah, and Southampton Road.
Off Southampton Road.
It's down a quiet little back street, but it's worth finding.
And it's on until till the 31st, which is Saturday. So, yep. London listeners, get yourselves there and see there's the installation of the disposable bodies. There's some amazing pictures, the tyranny of calligraphy, a film of a woman who's been arrested at a border, who is a would-be bomber, and her predicament and what happens to her. There's also, it's really, really vibrant, and when you leave, the way the October Gallery displays things is quite ingeniously. So as you leave, look up, see what Superwoman's doing, Catwoman is doing. There's a real humour to it as well. So, in the few seconds remaining, we've been listening to DJ Debbie with my guests Ella, Louisa and Chloe from, respectively, the October Gallery Education Department and DARTER, the latter two from DARTER. And we were just looking at issues of women's representation, in art especially, but extending it wider. And the vexed question of Women's History Month. Do we need it? Are responses gender or age defined? Would you stand up and say, I define myself as a feminist? Answers in the ether.
Thank you.
With seconds to go. Done.